let's take a moment and look at a practical real-life application of using the gospel chords play-by-number system. Let's take a look here at an actual hymn out of a hymn book. And I'm going to tell you how to approach this. Initially in the simplest way. If you're just starting out and you don't want to do a lot of harmonization and you're just new to this, I'm going to tell you how to approach looking at what you see here, this written music as it appears in a hymn book. We see here that this hymn is written in the key of A flat. Now don't let that be a concern of yours right now, no matter what your level of musical experience is, or if you do play and you don't like the key of A flat, we'll address that issue in a moment. But what I want to show you how to do is how to look and how to approach a piece of music that you probably have never seen before. You see a lot of notes here, and when I see a lot of notes on a piece of paper or music, that scares me because I'm not good at reading notes. But let's reduce this to its most basic elements, and we're going to harmonize this song, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And you do that by looking at the bass note. That's the lowest note on the staff. And you see labeled at position number 1, that note on the very bottom is an A flat. Now, since this is written in the key of A flat, and we know what number A flat is in the A flat scale, the voicing for this is labeled 1. A flat is the first note in the A flat scale, so we're going to play a 1 chord here. And if we just look across that measure, we see that that 1 chord is played for the entire measure. It's not until we get to number 2, position number 2, labeled there in red, that we see that that bottommost note changes. So for that second measure, what that means is that we're going to play a different chord, and to determine what that chord is, we simply look at that lowermost note there at position 2, where that bass note has changed. And we see that that bass note has changed to a D flat. Now, in the A flat scale, what is D flat? D flat is the 4. So we label this with a 4. So we move from the 1 chord to the 4 chord. And we repeat this process throughout. We go across and we see that that 4 chord remains in place for the entire measure. And we go to the next measure and we see that the note has changed to back to an A flat. And we know A flat is the 1 in the key of A flat. So we just have harmonized that entire first line with 1, 4, followed by 1. And if we repeat that process for the second line, we'll have both lines of this song harmonized. And we see there at position number 4, that lowermost note is in A flat. So that's a 1 chord. So we label position 4 with a 1, and we go across that measure, and we see that before we get to the next measure, that bass note changes again. So in this measure, we're actually going to play 2 chords. And that second chord in the measure at position number 5, that chord happens to be what? Look at the note, and we see that that note is an E flat. Now the E flat in an A flat scale is what note? The E flat is the 4. E flat is the 4th note in the key of A flat. I'm sorry, 5. E flat is the 5th note in the key of A flat. So we label that with a 5. We go to the next measure and we see that the lowermost note at position number 6 is an A flat, and we label that with a 1. A flat is the first note in the key of A flat, and that A flat persists throughout that entire measure. And it's not until we get to position number 7 that we have a new note in the bass. And that note in the bass is a D flat. And in the key of A flat, the D flat is a 4, so we label that with a 4, so we're going to play a 4 chord there. So that's how we should approach any piece of music, is we need to reduce it down to its Roman numerals, and that is the progression for the song. That's not the entire song, but we see here that for this individual song, it is a 1, 4, 1, 1, 5, 1, 4 progression. So those are the chords that we're going to play for this particular song. Now remember, we see that this song is in the key of A flat. One of the benefits of reducing a song down to its Roman numerals is at that point you can play it in any key that you want. So I can say, okay, I don't like the key of A flat, I'm going to play it in D flat because I'm more familiar with the numbers in the key of D flat. So that first chord is going to be a 1 chord in the key of D flat. That's going to be a D flat chord, and the second chord, which is a 4, is going to be what? The 4th note in the D flat scale is G flat, so that's a G flat chord. And the next chord is a 1, which is D flat, and the 5 that we have at position number 5, that's going to be an A flat chord. So by reducing the song down to its Roman numbers, and you being familiar with the number system, you can now play it in your favorite key and not worry about trying to read the music or playing it in a key that you don't like. Now that we've reduced this song down to its Roman numbers, at this point, you can ignore all of the notes on the song here and just play by Roman number. In fact, you can play it in any key that you want. If you don't want to play it in the key of A flat, you can play it in the key of C. So if you were playing this in the key of C, that means if you were playing a 1 chord, the first chord would be a C chord. And the next chord in the song is a 4 chord, so in the key of C, that second chord would be an F chord. So at this point, it's pretty simple to play it in whatever key you feel comfortable with. But just as an example here, I'm going to play it in the key of D flat, even though it's written in the key of A flat. So that is going to tell you right there, I'm not even reading the music that's up there. I'm just looking at the Roman numbers, and I'm going to be able to harmonize this song. In fact, I'm going to do a very simple harmonization. In fact, we've harmonized on the bass, and that's the simplest harmonization that you can do, and it's a good place for beginners to start. It's not going to have that much color or flavor, but it's a good starting point and a good way for me to introduce you to the technique on how to do the harmonization. So right here at position number 1, the first measure, it says use a 1 chord. So at this point, you simply open your book, volume 1, in scale harmonization. You look in that chord reference volume, and you're free to pick out any one of those 1 chords. Go through them, see which ones you like, maybe some of them you don't like, but you are free to pick any one of those chords to harmonize at this point. Like I said, this course is a true adventure. I want you to get used to experimenting and trying different things, listening to different voicings. And this just happens to be the voicings that I picked. You may not like them, but this just happens to be the one that I picked. And for that 1 chord, I picked the voicing number 658, which is a major 9. I'm going to play a 1 major 9, which is a D flat major 9 for that first measure of the song. Like I said, I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm not here to show off. I'm just going to show you how simple it is to use this technique to get some beautiful chords to harmonize any song. So like I said, in this first measure, I'm going to use chord number 658, which is in that first chapter on harmonizing on the 1, and that it would be a D flat major 9, and that sounds like this. Now the next chord is a 4 chord. So the fourth in the key of a D flat is what? G flat. So this is going to be a G flat chord, and the chord that I happen to pick is going to be a G flat 13th, which is chord number 316 or 315 in that same chapter on harmonizing on the one. That sounds like this. So let's hear those first two measures together, just so you can just hear. These are very pretty voicings. They're not plain vanilla voicings, and I got them right out of chapter, the chapter on harmonizing on the 1 and then the 4. So let's hear the first two measures together. That's harmonizing on the 1 with the D flat major 9, and we move on to that 13. And the next measure just simply goes back to the 1, which you already know. And we come here, we're going to harmonize on the 5, and I just happen to pick chord number 651. The 5 in the key of D flat is A flat, so I picked chord number 651, which is a 9 sus. It's going to be an A flat 9 sus, and that's what this one sounds like. So when we move from that 1 to that 5, it sounds like this. Like I said, if you don't like those chords, you're free to choose other chords. In fact, for that second chord on the 4, there's another option. You can also choose chord number, or I chose chord number 320, which is also in chapter 1 on harmonizing on that 1 tone, and that happens to be a 13 sus. I'm going to play a G flat 13 sus, and just hear the flavor I get by just switching to another voicing on that 4. So for the 1, I'm going to keep it the same, but on the G flat, I'm going to go back to the 1. So like I said, just by changing the voicing and going to that chapter and harmonizing whatever chord you need to harmonize on, you can give yourself, your song, lots of flavor. In fact, I can even play a different chord for harmonizing on that 1. I can choose chord number 57. Is a D flat 6/9. This one right here. So I can also choose that one for harmonizing on that first measure. D flat 6/9. Kind of a contemporary sound right there. So like I said, there's lots of choices, and this is kind of like the first step we should take, is just keep it very simple and just harmonize on the bass notes.